That's fantastic.
And Abhi, you're showing your screen. Everything looks good. Do a quick sound check if you can hear me. Raise your hand on the control panel to the audience. See, so right there you go. Yep, thank you, appreciate it. Got a little echo going on. I'll turn mine off. Maybe just everyone turn your microphone off until such time as you hop on, and that way there won't be an echo. Okay, Abhi, all yours.
Perfect, fantastic. Very, very good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all the people who have joined in and who are in the process of joining in. Really excited today for this fourth episode of our 5-part series. And I'm going to spend a little more time just talking around till we are at 12 GST or British Standard Time, and let kind of all the people waltz into this big, huge conference room, if I can call it so. It's been quite an era now that just about everybody in the world is extremely comfortable with this kind of an arrangement where people have been enhancing their relationship and they kind of know each other, having seen everyone into such rooms and such, as I call them, really large conference rooms with the freedom of what is called bring your own drink. Everyone can enjoy the beverage of choice while they listen in and chime in. So a very big and a very, very warm welcome to all the listeners, attendees, members, as well as professionals around the world who understand and would like to contribute to the common collective of passive fire protection, as well as better conformity assessment, as today's topic is about inspections, which is an extremely important aspect of the life cycle of any and everything in reality. Across all supply chains, there is always an inspection to confirm the value of whatever is being bought or sold or assessed. Today, we are at the episode 4 of a 5-part series. We started last year, as you can see on your screens as well. We started in the month of October, and in October, we brought a large set of people together from almost all over the world, where we re-emphasized FCIA's DIIM philosophy as we work hard to expand from just being fire stopping to fire stopping in all of compartmentation practices. We started in October with a session detailing the DIIM philosophy, as well as the journey, the 25-year journey or 2.5 decades of how we have progressed across the world as an association. Next month, which is in November, and then subsequently in December, we deep dived into design and installation. And I was very excited to bring together almost the world, if I can say, with very senior experts joining in from North America, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, as well as India, to contribute to talking about how design is a very key aspect related to passive fire protection. And today we talk about inspections. I would take a quick minute to share in the next slide the links to the first 3 episodes for all the people who might have missed this series or part of this series. But I'm very excited to introduce this session, which brings together 3 very well positioned experts from around the world who have an extensive amount of knowledge as well as experience, which is related to pacifier protection, which is related to inspections of pacifier protection, and know very well what is the DIIM philosophy. So I'm going to very quickly try and introduce in alphabetical order Karthik, who has volunteered to wake up extremely early morning at about 3 a.m. Probably it's 4 a.m. in Canada where he is. He is now the head or the vice president of accreditation services across IAS. I have Tyler, who is in Maine, who has had a very successful career growing and expanding fire stopping as a business. He is also a very senior board member who has been driving the FCIA as an association. Close by to me in UAE, in Dubai, is Yoli, who is currently a senior fire engineer with Vortex Fire and an expert who has more towards as a contractor and now working as a specialist inspector for passive fire protection. So a big warm welcome to all the panelists. We are very happy to have you on board, and a big warm welcome to all our listeners who, as I can see, are almost from all over the world. A warm welcome again. And I would encourage for any users or listeners who might have joined in or using the GoToWebinar platform for the first time, please do look for the orange arrow, which can help you open and look through the tabs and go through an area where you can pose questions. And I would welcome you all to also type a brief introduction about yourselves. You can, in the chat segment, you are most welcome to use the chat segment to cross-introduce yourself. And in case you would like to have conversations with other listeners, attendees, and professionals, please feel free to do so. Coming back to our program and a quick recap to this 5-part series of the Golden Thread. We started in October, and for anyone who would like to scan the QR code, there are 3 QR codes on the screen for the recordings of the 3 past sessions where we talk about design, where we talk about installation, and today we'll talk about inspections. For listeners who are new to the DIIM philosophy, this is a philosophy which was founded 2.5 decades ago and has been the backbone of being able to design, install, inspect, and maintain passive fire protection successfully across various geographies, across various jurisdictions, as well as being successfully adopted by several large corporations and businesses in the hospitality and the healthcare sector very well. D, which stands for design, I, which stands for installation, and I again for inspection and maintenance, are key pillars of the philosophy where we as an association have been able to educate and explain to authorities all over the world on how to conduct pacifier protection successfully on the basis of some standards. And we have been joined and supported by members almost all over the world. And last year, our membership has grown. And now we are also open to having more and more members who are in the business of installation of fire doors, containment solutions like partitions, dampers, as well as glazing systems. Some dots which are probably missing on the map are India, where we have members now, and some new members coming up in countries like Bangladesh and even beyond. So now a quick welcome, and I will start moving towards our panelists who I have already introduced. So I'm going to ask some questions to each panelist one by one so that we can deep dive into gaining a better understanding about inspection related to passive fire protection. So I'll start with Karthik. Hi, Karthik, quick mic check with you. And I would be asking you to share a little more on two specific points. If you could start with sharing with us a little more about what is really accreditation all about, and if you could give some genesis of how the accreditation criteria or the AC 291 criteria came to be. And then after this introduction about accreditation, I would like you to share, if you can, maybe with some examples of how better implemented inspection regimes through accreditation programs could have helped drive change in geographies or maybe over jurisdictions. Over to you, Karthik.
Thank you, Abhishek, for that. Yeah, you good now? Yeah, so thank you again for the introduction and the opportunity to introduce accreditation to your audience here, and also detail a little bit more about the genesis of AC 291 and how accreditation in general impacts the population. So I do have a deck with me, so if I could share my screen, that would be helpful. That way, you know, it's easier to have a conversation around it. Let me know which screen you're seeing. Oh. All right, do you guys see the presentation? All right, perfect. Good. Thank you. So first off, just to introduce IAS to the group here is IAS is an accreditation body that is a fully owned subsidiary of the International Code Council. For those who are in the States, ICC is a fairly well-known entity. The organization puts out model building codes, which are then adopted by each jurisdiction, states based on their adoption process for codes. The flagship, I would say, for ICC is the has been because of life safety issues and code compliance. So that's how we started as an organization in 1975, if you will. And since then, we've been providing and growing our portfolio, where at this stage, we offer over 20 accreditation programs. And we provide services in over 62 different countries. So the footprint is there for us. We do want to make a difference in life safety issues and also promote competent inspections, if you will. We are signatories to two global accreditation systems, which are called ILAC and IAF. ILAC is the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, primarily dealing with testing, inspection, and the analytical side, if you will, of the conformity assessment world. whereas IAF is on the certification, the International Accreditation Forum. There are discussions going on, and by January 2026, these two organizations are actually going to come together and form a new organization called Global Accreditation Cooperation. So you will start seeing more of that reference coming through from accreditation bodies than the ILAC and IAF world. So that's just a tidbit for you guys to start off the session. So, fundamental principle of what is accreditation. On base, it is simply an independent evaluation of a conformity assessment body, which includes a review of their impartiality in their operation, the capability of the organization to undertake and execute work, the competence of the people that are conducting this work, and then ability to consistently operate, which basically means regardless of which inspector goes or which technician is doing the test, following the process, they would be coming to the same results. So it is not going to be variable based on who shows up at work or their level of competence or understanding of the inspection, but rather the system is in place for the inspection body or testing laboratory to be able to train their personnel to achieve consistent results. So we as an accreditation body do go on a consistent basis to these inspection bodies, testing, whatever conformity assessment body in question may be, and ensure that they're compliant to international standards. So that's where the accreditation part of comes in, is an independent evaluation of how the body is functioning at a given point. I like to show this chart to individuals who are new to the conformity assessment world accreditation structure, is how do we fit into the grand scheme of things, right? If you think about the genesis of accreditation and how the signatory status for all these accreditation bodies world over, the purpose was to reduce non-technical barriers to trade. So from the World Trade Organization, recognizing accreditation as a function to ensure that competent goods and services are flowing through economies, that's where the whole basis of accreditation started. So as an accreditation body, we're highlighted in this lavender purple color board, if you will. And it is not that we are on the top level of this structure. We actually are responsible and answer to, if you will, governments, if it's a regulation that we're adhering to, or making sure that conformity assessment bodies are following governmental requirements. ILAC and IAF, as I mentioned, are the global organizations that oversee our work, if you will. We undergo evaluations, audits, for the lack of better term, once every 4 years. So we go through the same process as we subject our customers to. So it is something that we have to, on a periodic basis, present and convey that we are a competent organization as well. We follow an international standard called ISO IC 17011, and that the results of our accreditations are similar to accreditations issued by other AB. So that's our benchmark. Excuse me. So from that perspective, that is what sets that uniformity amongst accreditation bodies, where the reliance of transfer of results can happen in a free basis, if you will. So as I mentioned in my previous slides, we accredit conformity assessment bodies, and there are international requirements, or some of them are proprietary programs like the AC291 program is, which we'll delve into next, is basically for inspections we're going under 17020 or AC291. And once that happens, we ensure that any product, manufacturing process, special inspections, anything that is being performed under the umbrella of these standards meet those requirements. Same thing for testing, inspection, calibration, etc. And the ultimate goal is to give users, consumers, regulators confidence that the work done is competent, that the work done is by an organization that has the capability and has an ability to consistently produce results that is reflective of what the requirements are. So I hope this structure gives you a good idea of how the global accreditation structure is set up. So the big question that Abhishek asked, the genesis of special inspections and genesis of AC 291, right? So got to dig into where all this comes from. And at least from our perspective, the be all end all chapter and the most important chapter in the International Building Code is chapter 17. This is where the special inspections are introduced and the concept of approved agency is brought in. Basically, the authority having jurisdiction is ultimately responsible to approve agencies to provide services in their jurisdiction. So, team sitting in, and they will go to individual inspection bodies, they will go to individual testing laboratory or whatever services they're accepting, and make sure that those organizations are competent. And once they are satisfied of that, they approve them. Not all jurisdictions have the resources to expend. So over the years, accreditation has been relied on by regulators and authority having jurisdiction as a mechanism to get that approved agency status. So that's where AC 291 started, where we got requests from regulators. One of the big ones that we'll talk more about is City of New York. The Department of Buildings at the City of New York was very passionate about putting some mechanism out there to approve all the special inspectors that operate in their jurisdiction. So with that consultation started with stakeholders, including authority having jurisdiction, not just New York, but we had California, Oregon, Washington, New Jersey, and New York, and all these individuals coming together and putting out a document that detailed requirements for an inspection agency. So a lot of the principles of inspections come from ISO IC 17020, which is the international standard for inspection, the competence of inspection bodies, and also bringing in flavor of the construction industry, right? Because 17020 is a generic document that is applicable to every single industry that it is used in. However, knowing our audience and the needs in these jurisdictions, we had an open public hearing process where after a work document was presented for a 60-day comment period, we actually had an open hearing where anyone from the public was invited to speak for, against this document. And within this document, the structure is where you have the management system requirements, which is the quality requirements, document control principles, record retention principles, training requirements, all those things. But also importantly, the competency part for what an inspector certification requirements, education requirements, all those should be as well in order to meet a jurisdictional requirement. So this document was put together and approved almost about, I would say about 20 years ago at this point, where the AC 291 was brought in 25 years ago. But this is not a stagnant document. Periodically, we take this back to the committee based on code changes, based on standard updates, based on changes to 17020, and it is a current living document. However, and IAS, I would say, and put it out there in public here, is one of the only accreditation bodies in the world that has this open public hearing process, where we want consultation with the stakeholders, the users of the document, and the people who are most impacted by it, to give us feedback for enhancements. And staff will present this to the committee, which is composed mainly primarily of building officials, but also important stakeholders like big or multinational organizations and everything else. What this document did at that point when it was first introduced and continues to do so is it ensures that we clearly set requirements for the capability of the inspection bodies. How do they make sure that they consistently operate, the use of procedures, standard operating procedures, writing down what they're going to do and following through. And then, as I was mentioning, we have a table of the different special inspections area that are recognized by the code and what the competency requirement must be, what the education, licensing requirements, training needs, all that are clearly identified. Even though I say that it is chapter 17, I know that it has been adopted in other parts of the world as well, where we get calls out of the blue saying, hey, my government is requiring that I be accredited to AC 291. Can you please help? And that is not something that we've reached out to, but over the past two and a half decades, it has become a primary document for people to go seek out what the qualification requirements or competence or approval requirements should be. Some jurisdictions, because of their specialized nature, will override our competency requirements, and that's where the table, the chart that I showed in previously is where we take direction from regulators and governmental agencies to make sure we enforce their requirements. So depending on which jurisdiction you are in, they may have their own special inspection competency qualification requirements that IAS will make sure that you're complying to, and the certificate that is issued for the organization will clearly identify that. So that is how AC 291 started, right? A little bit more of a history lesson than some people may want, but I think it's important for us to be understanding of it.
Before you move ahead, Karthik, I'm just going to take a very small, like an interlude to all the listeners and professionals who are listening in, to share the fact that this very, very excellent amount of work that has been done in the past by IAS, as well as the contributions by FCIA and members to ensure that there is a close working as well as a better comprehension about passive fire protection. And I want to emphasize before you go to the next answer, to all the listeners, existing members as well as future members, that this is a key work which is delivered by the association, and that is to make sure that we are able to mirror this good work that has already been done, the good work of progress in standardization, and how it can be adopted either directly or in some form in those countries where no systems exists or the authorities lack the resources to implement such systems, and not only across jurisdictions or countries, but to make sure that these systems are understood and adopted by certain multilateral organizations, non-government organizations, entities which regulate other industries. So entities who are, let's say, in the hospitality, in the healthcare sector, larger bodies who take decisions which are adopted worldwide across a certain band of the industry. They all have already been adopting some of the work that you have already done. So it's very exciting, and I'm very glad that you have been able to take out time to share this very insightful history, because all of this gives a lot of ideas and thoughts to contractors, installers, inspectors, and various businesses who are associated in part of the common collective of passive fire protection. Back to you, Karthik.
Thank you. So a couple of examples that I wanted to highlight here. New York City, as I mentioned, has implemented very strict requirements for large-scale projects when it comes to special inspections, and they call it Class 1, which are the big square footage projects that they're doing. And they have upwards of 15, 16 different scope categories that mandate special inspections. And depending on if it's a continuous inspection or periodic inspection, the special inspection agency must be on site and make sure that they're filling up all the requirements, right? So fireproofing is nice and clearly indicated and required as part of New York City Department of Building requirements. And accredited special inspections, played critical role in two of my favorite projects, because I used to periodically go to New York when I was still in the US, and I could see the progression of these projects. So I'm a big fan. One is the Hudson Yards development project, a $25 billion mixed use development, housing, retail, entertainment, everything in one place, like East Side, I believe, no, West Side of New York, Manhattan. So amazing project. And also the One World Trade Center, right? We all know over the years this structure was built, and then it's a 104-story skyscraper, including a memorial, all those things. So again, some of our assessors had the opportunity to go up as this was getting constructed, and some even went on top to look at the sphere when it was getting put up. So amazing project, great views. So these two projects were definitely something where special inspections played critical role in getting approvals on a timely and expedited manner. Just imagine, multi-million-dollar project, delays can cost serious money. So you want to make sure that everything got done properly. So one of the things that AC 291 brings to the table, right, is enhanced accountability and compliance by everyone involved, whether it be the owner, the designer, contractor, inspector, a collective team knowing exactly what needs to happen in order to get that occupancy permit at the end of the day. The regulator are whoever is accepting AC 291 or has a mechanism for approval under Chapter 17 are clear in what their requirements are and are consistent in the enforcement, which is important because ultimately authority having jurisdiction have the final say in whether something passes or not. So unless that buy-in is available, it's not gonna work. Whether AC 291 may be the best document out there, but unless it's enforced, it's not gonna help anyone. Clear and standardized requirements for inspection agencies is very, very critical and important. Unless they know what the ground rules are, everyone's gonna be doing it in their way, and we don't have any benchmarkings at that point. And one of the things that we've noticed is a lot more focus on disaster resilience is coming up, especially New York. Again, I'm picking on them because after Hurricane Sandy went through that city, they changed their requirements, they changed their focus. Flood proofing measures are key and critical. One of the special inspection categories that has been added at this point as an optional, but something that is being encouraged, energy code compliance, and also means of egress illumination. These are all life safety issues that not traditionally under Chapter 17, but these jurisdictions are also innovating, if you will, to make sure that something that can be helpful and useful is going to be added as part of their compliance check. At the end of the day, accredited inspection, what does that bring to the table? Ensures quality and compliance by making sure regulatory compliance is there, and then quality assurance to approve construction documents. You want to make sure what is being built is consistent with what was approved, what was proposed, the design element of it, as you mentioned earlier. So these are all important facets to make sure that the building is built as needed. And then, we bring to the table continuous improvement and monitoring. AC 291 mandates internal audit. As we usually say, people like the inspection agency know where the bodies are buried. So it is important that they do a self introspection and identify where they need to improve. And also a periodic IAS assessment once every 2 years, once a year, depending on the program. We go make sure that the quality of service, level, competence, etc., has not dipped after the initial accreditation. It's not a one and done transaction. It's a continuous process where they have oversight by IAS to make sure that they continue to meet the requirements of AC 291, the building codes and whatnot. So just what's next, right? So as I said, this is not a stagnant document. It keeps improving. It keeps making sure that, you know, we stay current with time. So I think we're going to be focusing more on resilience and disaster preparedness. I know I mentioned Hurricane Sandy, but also the Florida building collapse. That has triggered a lot of interest in inspections and making sure that people are appropriately meeting code compliance. I think the integration of smart technology is going to start coming in. The use of AI in inspection or drones or 3D scanning. These are hot button items world over. I've spent more time talking about AI in IAF and ILAC than anywhere else because people understand that our industry and the conformity assessment inspection testing industry has to adapt. You know, change is imminent and we need to make sure that we have requirements surrounding the ethical and appropriate use of AI. So that is something and a whole different conversation, I know, but that is coming. And workforce development, if you are in the industry, I think everyone is going through the same thing, is how do we maintain capable and competent personnel? Trying to find a good individual to undertake work is getting tough. With the generational changes, we need to make sure that upskilling of inspectors in new technologies is also happening, and that may become part of further part of, I should say, AC 291, where we're going to be looking into how the inspectors are keeping up with technology and innovations within their industry. And finally, I would say, you know, AC 291 is our flagship, one of our flagship programs. It assists regulators world over. It has provided and continues to provide authority having jurisdictions to approve agencies, right? You put yourself in the AHJ shoes. How do you know results coming from an organization is appropriate, valid, competently performed? You need a mechanism to approve and accept results. AC 291 provides that. You know, as I mentioned, we continue to update. We're not stagnant. We continue to be innovative and make sure that we address the requirements of our stakeholders. And finally, I would leave accredited inspection does provide confidence to regulators and consumers that the work was done right, and then it truly is a cornerstone of quality assurance.
Thank you very much, Karthik. That was really, really insightful, as well as it is providing a lot of ideas and thoughts to the broad spectrum of listeners who are not only live right now, but probably would even be listening to our conversations in the future on the web or otherwise. And I am a big fan of the fact that how good work builds and provides the basis of a lot of progress which happens iteratively, and how work done by your good selves has impacted so many countries, so many regions, such a huge amount of infrastructure all over the world. Before I welcome and move towards Tyler and ask him some questions, I do want to give a big welcome to listeners who kind of joined in a little later, but I want to encourage participants to think up of questions that you may want to ask, and you are most welcome to use the question answer control panel to dial in questions, write in questions, because towards the end of this session, we will be taking up specific questions, and the panelists are around till the end of the program. Anything related to inspections, accreditation, Karthik will be around. And I must say I'm very excited, Tyler, to have you here today. In the last session, we had another board member, which is Ben. And I must be honest, I was really surprised by the kind of um, answers, responses, and thoughts that Beth shared as a contractor member who a lot of our listeners, a lot of the people who have dialed in, who are contracting companies, who are employees of businesses, who are on a daily basis in a struggle between technical and commercial. And I really feel that a lot of webinars, a lot of talks that we attend today are very much on the surface. You know, people talk a lot of ideal stuff. People talk a lot on, you know, this is how things are supposed to be. And I'm very proud to be part of this very unique family where, as a contractor, this is where we do the work. We get our hands dirty. We are the ones who are actually providing the most needed balance between those very stylish, you know, straight line drawings that come and go all around the construction industry's life cycle to actual work where it is done. And we are really experienced in this journey. And I would really, I'm very eager to listen to some of your side of the story. And not only me, I am very sure that all the listeners who come from this understanding that it is, this is where the work kind of really gets done. And some of your practical insights, I think, will be very, very helpful for, you know, existing as well as future members of the associations who might be listening in today. So I have two questions for you, Tyler, and we can go to them one by one. But as I introduced you as well, I would really like to understand that as a board member of the association and as someone who has volunteered a very large part of your work life, please share with us, you know, how your initiation with FCIA came to be, as a little more about yourself. And after that introduction, I would really like to hear some very interesting insights as how you and your business has used inspections as a function, as an empowered concept in to help you not only grow the business, but also provide the basis to expand the understanding of passive fire protection across so many industries. Over to you, Tyler. Really happy that you were able to join us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. All right. So just to introduce myself, my name is Tyler Ferguson. I'm the president and CEO of National Fire Stopping Solutions. Founded National Fire Stopping Solutions in 2013. And I think it's kind of fitting that I'm on the inspection side of this because the company was founded based on fear of inspection. I happened to be working for a local general contractor in my area. I was a carpenter, a low person on the totem pole, and we were doing some minor renovations in a hospital local to me. And they had a joint commission inspection looming. And for those who don't know, that's an inspection body in the States that verifies that all hospitals are kind of functioning at the same level. And one of the parts of that inspection is a barrier inspection to make sure that the firewalls, fire barriers, smoke barriers are all up to compliance. So they asked, you know, hey, low guy on the totem pole, climb above the ceiling, take a look, see, you know, if the fire stopping is done properly. I had no idea what fire stopping was. So that's when I kind of took lunch breaks and coffee breaks to kind of try to learn the industry a little bit. And I kind of realized pretty early on that I should not be looking at these fire stopping because I was not qualified to properly, definitely put somebody else's life in my own hands. So I went to the owner of the construction company and said, I think we could probably start something here, pitched the idea, and he said, sure, let's run with it. So at that point, I really had no understanding of the industry. So luckily we were kind of reaching out, trying to touch base with sources to try to figure out where we could get education, what the industry actually looked like. And we were lucky to kind of come across a local Hilti rep who was a Firestop specialist, and came, introduced himself. He said, step one, you need to become an FCA member. And I had no idea what an FCA member was. I didn't know what the FCA was. And then he just said, step two, you got to become UL or FM. So we jumped in 2012, became members of the FCIA, went to our first conference in the fall, and it was so eye-opening to sit with 100 other contractors and be there for 3 to 4 days and learn all kinds of new stuff that was happening with the industry, and kind of commiserate a little bit. When you're in the trenches all day, and nobody really knows what you're doing when it comes to fire stopping. It was especially still new, even though it's been around a little while. When you can have all similar-minded people come together, it was really, really educational. It really helped grow my business, and from that point, we've been at almost every conference since. And if I can't make it, it's because I'm having a child, or that kind of thing. But it's been an amazing experience. So based on the stuff that I've learned through the FCA in 2017, I was asked to run for the board of directors for the FCA, and I felt, based on the amount of information that my company has been able to grow and gain being a member of the FCA, I felt it was my obligation to return the favor and to help kind of continue to grow the industry, from the FCA's perspective. So that's kind of how I grew the business, and and that's kind of how. And the FCA was definitely hand in hand in helping NFS, my company, grow, as every 6 months we come together. What's happening in code, what's changing within the industry. It kind of keeps your finger on the pulse of what's happening out there. Another thing that I wanted to, I have a couple notes here. So it talked about kind of the background, talked about becoming part of the board. How inspection has kind of driven my business. When we started the company, obviously we were founded in existing healthcare, but we thought, all right, let's kind of roll out into new construction. Let's see what that looks like. When we got out into the market, we realized that there was a lack of knowledge in enforcement. So our business model kind of trended towards existing healthcare, because that's where the inspection was, and that's what drove the industry. And then I realized if we were going to grow, we needed to kind of educate those, code officials, AHJs, state fire marshals, on what fire stopping was. And so we kind of our company did a campaign. We partnered with the FCA, and we kind of tried to do a broad education. And over the last 10 years, the market that we originally started in New England, that education has paid dividends, because now our is 50-50 construction, existing healthcare, based on the amount of time and energy we were able to put into educating the people that were inspecting fire stopping. Because if the trades are doing it and they're not well trained, but there's no inspection, then there's really no reason to pay a specialty contractor to come in and do the work. There's really no understanding of what that specialty contractor brings and why it's different. So that's kind of helped grow our industry. The FCIA has helped in 2 specific ways. Bill, you can help me with the timeline on this, but I think it was 2014 or 15 when you guys rolled out the Barrier Symposium. Was it around that time?
Yeah, that was about right. 2013, 14.
13,
the
14.
Barrier Management Symposium, yeah.
So I had just become a member of the FCA. I remember going to one of the conferences, and they said, we're rolling out this Barrier Symposium. What it looked like was experts in all different aspects of how a barrier should function, whether it be a gypsum company to talk about how the wall should be built, CMU, mason to talk about, how you build a rated wall. They talk to Firestop contractors. They talk to, door installation. They talk to damper installation. It talks about how a barrier needs to how it has to all function in one for that to stop the passage of fire and smoke. And they kind of rolled it across the United States, aimed at really code officials, but also more towards healthcare. We kind of looked at a partnership with not ASTM, but ASHE, where that's the Association of Healthcare Engineers Association across the United States. And they partnered, and all of these facility directors and VPs of hospitals started to come to these conferences or seminars And in that 1 year, it boosted the knowledge of all these people that are maintaining these buildings, or their responsibility of protecting these buildings went up drastically. So now the need or understanding of a specialty contractor was right in their head. Like, well, we used to do it in-house ourselves, but based on the symposium, it's very clear that we are not knowledgeable, or we are not trained, or we don't want to take the liability of installing fire stopping in our hospitals or in our facilities. So that kind of helped our business on the early side since we started in 2012, 2013. And then when the International Building Code, when we installed third-party fire stop inspection, ASTM 2174 and ASTM 2393 in 2012, and really we saw it in certain territories really starting to take hold in 2015. All of a sudden, that affected the new construction side of inspection. So all of these general contractors or local subs that we had been putting bids out, that we were trying to build relationships with, that kind of laughed at our number, kind of said, well, why are you guys making this so complicated? Why are you labeling this stuff? You don't need to use the system. We've been doing it this way for 30 years. Just put some caulking on it. The inspectors don't care. They say it's correct. All of a sudden, when we had other knowledgeable people looking at the fire stopping and failing it over and over again when it comes to the trades or the general contractors trying to self-perform, all of a sudden, the people that we were trying to build relationships started calling us saying, hey, we've just failed this inspection 4 times. It doesn't make sense to us. You know what? Maybe your number does make sense. And so we've actually been able to, over the last 5 or 6 years, depending on the maturity of the market, build strong relationships with trades, with GCs, and they come to us before the project starts because they don't want to deal with the headache of failing and holding. And we all know, with the lack of labor, if you're holding a project up, you're going to be, on the chopping block. You're going to be dealing with liquidated damages and all kinds of other things the GC is going to throw at you. So, to have a professional contractor involved, now that all of the other, and all of it is forced by proper inspection. So that, and I know, Bill, you can certainly speak a little bit more to, the FCIA's involvement in getting third-party inspection in the International Building Code in 2012. But that single-handedly, in mature markets that we're in, changed the game for us over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'll be very quick so we give Yoli Beth some time too. The idea for the inspection of fire stopping came up in 2000 at a conference where several of the contractors asked, hey, Mike Pfeiffer, then Vice President of Codes at ICC, International Code Council, hey, why don't we have independent inspection for fire stopping like we do for fireproofing? Cartic brought up fireproofing as a part of IAS AC 291. And Mike Pfeiffer shot back, do you have a standard for inspection and have you put it in the code? We said no and no. So we formed a standards committee, worked and built ASTM E21742393 by hiring a consultant to help write the first drafts. And then Bill Koffel, our code consultant, and I worked together at the International Code Council and NFPA, put it in both International Building Code, NFPA 1, NFPA 101, and other parts of the world as well. We then went to IAS and said, okay, we need inspectors that are competent. Okay, we got education for that, the FCIA, and we need agencies that are accredited. So we went to the IAS open hearings and added the fire stopping section to the IAS AC 291 in about 2007, 2008. And the rest is history. It's really amazing to watch the last 12 years how it has evolved and changed our marketplace so that life safety is protected. Many people say, let's go buy fire caulk and install it and everything's good. No, that's not correct. We need systems and listings. So it's a great story, a great evolution, and it has made a big effect in fire and life safety in the industry.
We've noticed that it's been in the code since 2012, but we definitely had to partner with the FCIA and other educational sources to really get it out to the AHJs, to the people that could use it as a resource, because even though it was put in International Building Code, a lot of them didn't know that it existed or they could use it as a tool. So that's when I say markets where the people that are inspecting these buildings know, you know what, if I'm not comfortable, if I don't feel competent in, walking through and making sure the fire stopping is installed properly in a building, I can then lean back and say, you know what, I want a third-party inspector on this project that just looks at the fire stopping. And depending on what market we have multiple offices up and down the East Coast, and they're not all created equal based on the knowledge of the inspectors in those areas. When we talk about just my evolution within the FCA over the last 12 years, yeah, I think we went to the first conference. I think there might have been 120 to 150 contractor members. We're now well over 300. And when you start to see, that many contractors growing across the United States and growing across internationally, it certainly adds validity to what we're doing. When we started, our company in Maine, there were no other fire stop contractors within 200 miles. So we could bid a project, but they all, yeah, ULFM, we'd see it held in the standard, in the spec, but they'd get thrown out because there was nobody else that would bid the project. Now 12 years later, there are 4 qualified contractors within a 5-mile radius of my office right now. And now we're picking up a larger majority of the work because we actually can bid these projects apples to apples with all the trades and the GCs. And it's really helped grow. And the FCA has been a huge part of that, because when we go to these conferences, we kind of come as a brotherhood, and we kind of tell each other, like, if you know somebody out there that's starting a company, get them to become part of the FCA. And that's the stepping stone to get them through the door, to then show them the value of becoming a UL and FM contractor. And then that ups the game, and then everybody wins. And that's what I've seen. And because I remember, Bill, the first conference that I went to, you said, you want to get as many FM and UL contractors, in your area, to help you grow. And I thought, why would I want to help my competitors? But it really has proven a viable concept. And the other thing that the FCA has done is just an overwhelming commitment to education. And a lot of that has been built over the last, 20, 25 years. But traveling around, putting on webinars like this, doing stuff in person, that single-handedly has helped grow the industry, because, you have to educate people on how to use this inspection properly to get everything to flow, downhill. That's kind of been, my journey when it comes to how inspection has helped our business. In the beginning, because healthcare was more heavily enforced, that's the direction that we kind of guided. But then as we were able to grow the knowledge locally with code officials, and then with, third-party fire stop inspection, starting to grow over the last 5 or 6 years, knowledge-wise, we've been able to kind of transform, more 50-50 existing construction and existing healthcare.
That's very exciting. That's very, really exciting. It's very empowering, I believe, for all the members, people to listen in, to see what you are sharing as something that you saw happen just very quickly, which took, many years of efforts and many, countless conversations. But today, as you said, we are bearing in the fruit of all of that hard work that has been done by all the collective. And with that, I want to take away 3 points before I go back to Yoli. One, I'm so encouraged by what you mentioned, that you felt the need, Tyler, to give back because you realized the potential of how a common collective, the feeling of brotherhood, has helped the industry move up. And I want to encourage members who are listening in to come ahead, invest some of your time to help contribute and give back to the industry. And the second, which is very exciting, is that how this baseline work has become, for a given. It's known at a lot of places, and now we're growing over and over and over. We're taking these building blocks, and now we've got fire door installers, we've got damper installers who are members, who want to utilize the same concept and say, hey, why not do work in a standardized way? And we are very excited at this time, because the more we talk about, and it's Bill and I and more of us in the world who are listening into these success stories saying, well, we've all been discussing and debating that this is a problem, how do we solve it? This is a problem, how do we solve it? Here you are. It's already being utilized as a solution. So a lot of professionals in other countries are very excited to hear about these success stories. And the third, is very exciting time for industries and sectors beyond healthcare into hospitality. Recently, I had a great interaction with the hospitality engineers in the Middle East. There's a big group of director of engineering across the Gulf countries who came together, who were listening so intently, saying, these are our problems. Just like you mentioned about JCI as a credentialing authority, as an accreditation body for healthcare industry, several hotel brands are as rigid or even beyond when it comes to passive fire protection, having their own internal protocols. And they are so keenly saying, hey, we want to use this. How can we do this? So it's very exciting, excuse me, for us as a common collective in the world to grow. And with that, I'm going to welcome, if I can say, an old hat as Yoli, as someone who has seen so much that has happened across various stakeholders herself. As you may have read Yoli's introduction. Yoli, I welcome you on board, and I have two questions for you before we move towards the questions and move towards some of the thoughts from Bill. I would like you to please share with the audience that your journey, that how you progressed and moved across working for a contractor, and how you took that learning and moved towards a fire consultant. And after you share this journey, please share a little more nuggets, some examples of how that knowledge is now used very effectively by you as a person and people like yourself to actually help your clients, save time, save money by using these inspections to make sure that the work gets delivered on time quickly. Over to you, Yoli.
Thank you, Abhi. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Some of the participants may know me from the past. I'm Yolibeth Doropan. I'm a licensed civil engineer by qualification, but my whole career in the Middle East began with the hands-on technical rules and commercial rules in passive fire protection. I started as an estimator and quantity surveyor at Firestop Installation Technologies, Qatar, Doha, Qatar, from 2011 to 2012, where I focused mainly at first on the estimations and takeoffs, but based only in standard Firestop systems. However, the company later on decided that I would try to take the FM 4991 DRI exam. DRI means a designated responsible individual, for those who doesn't know that one. Then through thorough reading and understanding of the FCIA manual, that's my key. I passed, luckily, the DRI exam for the first time. The first take, I passed the DRI exam. And then from that moment on, I started doing some internal inspections. Since before in Qatar, they require a lot of DRIs. That's based on my experience before in Doha. So, but in 2012, a UAE opportunity came in. Then a chronicle company hired me as a DRI at first, because a certain project requires a DRI, because I think it requires an FM certification. So from 2012 to 2019, I've been dealing with this company. So at first, I was involved as a DRI, but then later on, I was involved in commercial and all other aspects in tech that includes all commercial and technical. So in this added role, I gained expertise in interpreting specification, overseeing budgets, reading submissions, variations, and contracts. So I learned a lot for the 7 years. I learned a lot commercially, and at the same time, being the DRI of the company, I have deepened my practical expertise on that one, overseeing fire protection projects, ensuring code compliance, conducting internal training for the company. I also trained some of my colleagues to have a DRI exams, and then coordinating with the clients, project consultants, and main contractor for any technical inquiries. And then at 2019, all this foundation paved my way for my current role as a senior fire engineer in Vortex Fire. By the way, Vortex Fire is IES accredited. So here I transitioned into fire consultancy, where I maximize my field knowledge to conduct fire protection inspections, review compliance, and provide expert advice on fire safety codes and standards, solidifying my role as a trusted expert in the industry. And also in my current role, I gained a lot of maybe so-called some enemies, but that's only at sight. So that's it. So based on my experience, across the life cycle of the fire stopping from the what we call this as a contractor and as an inspector, delivering fire stopping in the first attempt, that making it right is not easy as a fire stop contractor. Anyone here in this audience knew that one, that it's not easy to deliver fire stopping inspection in the first time, and it's approved. It's not easy, especially when the coordination and the proper design and coordination have not been established. It was explained already in the previous sessions, right? That it should start from the design. It should, everyone involved in a certain project should know from day one to the end of the project. So moreover, challenges arise when those involved in a project lack a deep of understanding of passive fire protection and its importance. This is the key really, because sometimes some, not all, some stakeholders took for granted fire stopping. They will only say, oh, it's just a sealant, that's it. They just focus on approvals and etc. However, on what way the contractor could save money and time when it's done right in the first time? There are lots of factors based on my experience. This one is based on my experience. Anyone can stop me if they don't want my yeah. So at first, costly reworks can be avoided. So errors in fire stopping often led to the removal and replacement of materials. Everyone knows here that as most of the fire stop materials is expensive. So doing it the second time around will double the cost. Second one, fixing mistakes requires additional man hours, disrupting schedules, not only the fire stop contractor schedules, but also everyone involved in the certain project. So from the fire stopping to the ceiling closures and everything, it will be disrupted. The schedule will be stopped. The schedule will be moved forward. 2 weeks, 1 week, or delay is too much for everyone, right? So another thing is non-compliance during inspections required rework, creating delays and potential penalties. Some contractors will back charge applicators if inspections were rejected. Yes, so it has to be done not perfectly, but just make it right. I mean, there are lots of ways how to make it right in the beginning. So that's why these sessions that we have for FCIA is really important. Everyone, not only for subcontractor, but everyone involved in the project should be there. Okay, another thing is getting it right the first time reduces project delays caused by failed inspections and non-compliance corrections. And the proper planning and executions ensure some smooth integration with other construction activities, avoiding schedule conflicts. Based on my experience as an inspector, the contractor will always say we got into pressure, that's why they cannot do it right, because they want ceiling closures and everything. So once it's rejected once, so the time will be doubled, the manpower and everything will be doubled. Not only the fire stopping contractor will get delayed, everyone involved in that, ceilings, board closures, and everything. And then another thing is we could have an efficient use of resources. If you do estimations at the very beginning, accurate estimations, a thorough understanding of fire stopping during the estimation or costing phase minimizes over or under ordering of materials. before submitting a cost proposal or a comprehensive study of the project itself must be conducted, including an on-site visit to assess all the relevant factors before finalizing the cost. Because sometimes we do estimates based on UL tested systems. However, there are lots of projects where this one cannot be understood by some contractors because this one is too perfect, this one. So it has to be clear at the beginning of the project to avoid these rejections in the later part. Then efficient workforce distribution. Skilled workers can focus on other areas. So in case you get the failures for the first time in the inspection, then another inspection will be done. So the labor will again double their time to do another inspection, rectifications, and removal. So the schedule is a mess at that moment. So another thing is compliance and risk reductions. As a contractor, we have to be inspection ready, proactively adhering to fire codes. So everyone, not only the engineers, not only the DRI of the contractor, they should know the fire codes and standards to ensure smooth inspection and helps avoid potential penalties, which I discussed that some contractors will do bulk charge applicators. And then number 2, enhance safety. Proper fire stopping. Yeah, this is very important. Proper fire stopping protects lives and properties, reducing potential insurance claims or lawsuits in case of fire incidents. Actually, from day one, since I learned from FCIA, since I learned about passive fire protection, this is the phrase that I can't forget. A pencil-sized hole could cost lives. So until now, when I do inspection, I say, oh, it's just a small gap. It's just like, no, anything can happen. We don't know where, but anything can happen. If that smoke will be there in that pencil hole size hole, in the pencil size hole, then everything will be out of control. So the next one is cost efficient estimation and design. This was already discussed from the previous sessions by FCIA. In project, a pre-construction planning is very important. All the possible gaps, all the possible systems, all the possible fire-rated assemblies, proper designs, penetrations, joints, everything shall be discussed even before the project has started, because this shall be implemented on the shop drawing so other trades could learn what is fire stopping, because sometimes the applicators, we have a lot of good applicators, but the problem is the civil contractors, the gypsum contractors, they just don't care some contractors don't care if the openings is like this, is 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters. So that size of openings really matters because technically, you cannot have a huge openings that much. And second, the cost of each gap, the cost of each opening size varies from 25 mm to 1 meters. So when you started the project right, there should be an standardization. So we can utilize proven and certified fire stopping systems to the installation process that will simplify and minimize uncertainty. And the last one is very important for the project also, is we should have a well-trained applicators, not only applicators, from supervisors to engineers and everyone as a Firestop applicator. But if you're not a Firestop applicator, you should also learn how to do it, because the mindset of a person will really help a lot when you are at site. Because if your mindset is, oh, you just need an approval, approve. How about the quality? How about the lives of people? That's very important mindset of every person involved in passive fire protection. So familiarity also with the inspection requirements. For example, as Vortex, as an inspector of Vortex, everyone know already how we inspect, what we check. We are checking through systems. We are checking, there is a procedure, there is a standard procedure. So that very moment when you do first inspection, then every requirements has been prepared, from the details, the markup drawings. If this is the life safety plan is there, there's no reason to reject on something, right? If everything was followed. So to close this one, I would suggest that in every project, there should have been an internal inspections that falls to the DRI for every project before raising for any inspections. Or every now and then, someone internally should inspect their works. Because by prioritizing fire stopping with the goal of getting the first time, clients and main contractors and project managers can enhance overall project efficiency, reduce cost, and ensure the safety and integrity of the building, ultimately benefiting all the stakeholders, not only us, but everyone involved in that project. That's all. Hope it's clear, or if you have any questions, then I'm open.
Thank you so much, Yoli. This is very insightful. And as I also have been talking about this is very confidence building for other members, for all the members of not just FCIA, but all contractors. The contractors hardly get their side of the story out there in the public like this. People all think this is just very easy, very convenient. Everybody can just do this.
Yeah.
I want to share a very interesting number for you as well as the listeners. Is that I did some research and I read some research that a typical construction project, let's say a large project whose cost is 100 million project. You can set the currency, whichever currency you want. 35% of 100 million is the money that goes to MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. 35%. So for a 100 million project, 35 million goes to MEP works. Everything. This is everything putting together. All sorts, contractors, materials, and very importantly, fire stopping. And something you mentioned, 5 days of delay. X amount of rework. You can, any cost estimator of a general contractor can imagine that when the 35% budget is shifted, what is the impact? 35%. So many subcontractors, so many suppliers. It's not just one subcontractor who's a fire stopping contractor who will get back charged. There is so much change. It happens everywhere. So I'm very excited that Tyler also talked about this. You also talked about the importance of these symposiums and the get-togethers that we are doing. I'm very excited to share in February in the UAE, we will be having our symposiums, and we are getting together some very interesting speakers, ranging from the insurance industry to even speakers who will bring about the cost of the damages that are called in when there is an investigation. What is the kind of lawsuits and what is the kind of money that gets impacted by passive fire protection and bad work and bad inspection work? So I'm very excited about this, and thanks to all of you. And before I kind of move to Bill and ask him some of my favorite questions about it, I want to share with the audience that on the website we have some extensive amount of resources, which is on the right tab, and we have a very large list of experts who are inspectors, who are members of the association. And I'm very pleased to say that this is just a list of inspectors. And while I encourage all the listeners, people who've kind of written in, I'm happy to call in Bill to share a little bit about how he has seen this industry come to where it is now. And please, if you can, Bill, share with us a little more before we close today's session as to how you see us as an association growing with more and more members across the trades of passive fire protection across the globe and when manual of practice. You know, it's more like I dream of this in the future. So I'd love to hear some of those kind of thoughts from you as ideas, because what we have been able to achieve as an association is 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 really huge. You know, when members, contractors, inspection companies, when they join hands with us, with SCIA as an association, they have been able to develop these pillars that have proven big successes across industries. So over to you, Will, to end towards the end of today's session. Please share with us a little more about what you see in the future.
Thank you, Abhi. Really appreciate it. To see the future, I have to thank the past. We have had very great people volunteer their time over 25 plus years to help build the story that you and the team here have just told. For instance, when I traveled to IAS in 2007-8, Randy Boscawen, former president, came with me. Our first conference in Dubai, Bill Hoos, past president, Randy Boscawen, past president, Aidan Gleason, all came as well. You know, Tyler and I have traveled various places to do things. Ben and I have traveled. It's been a great team that has assembled a lot. When we started the association in 1999, January in Chicago, we said, how do we find a way to affect this industry? How do we form an association that has a way to separate the contractors that understand the listings that Yoli Beth spoke about and the detail needed? How do we get the marketplace to understand that those contractors can provide value through the FM and UL programs? How do we get inspection? And this all evolved. Certainly it was laid out early. Let's get inspection going. Let's get quality contracting. Let's have a document that is the baseline knowledge, like Yoli Beth mentioned, the FCIA Firestop Manual of Practice, that she can teach from and use, and others can do the same thing and carry that forward for the next generations. That start has been a start. It's been 25 years of a lot of great accomplishments, but there's so much more to do. Looking in the future, what's nice to see is the work that you've done and others have done to get to other audiences, in addition to the healthcare organizations that understand that they have to buy this correctly, that has to be installed right, has to be inspected right. For the organizations like International Accreditation Service that provides IASAC 291 accreditation for the inspection agencies. When it first, for the last 10 years, 15 years, it hasn't been much of a big deal, but now it's changing in a very fast way as Kartik and his team are getting around to audit inspection agencies and have them accredited. It's rapidly changing such that the specialist Firestop contractor is demanded because there are many of them that can provide a competitive proposal to a building owner and manager. When it's one contractor that's right and 4 others that are wrong, the 4 others that are wrong are 50 times cheaper than the one that's right. And it makes the one that's right look terrible. So there's so much going on that you've heard today that is accelerating the acceptance of fire stopping as its own construction discipline. And what's nice is I see that 25 years ago, there was not really a career in our industry. And you've heard Yoli Beth go through a career as an estimator, as a quantity surveyor, as a DRI for her company. And now she's used that education and the FM Firestop exam, which has inspection questions in it, the manual of practice, which has 85 pages on inspection. And it's helped her career into Firestop inspection in the Middle East, which is just so cool to see, a result of all the work that many people have done over many, many years. I've been honored to be a part of it and hope to continue in as much as I can over the next several years. As I age out, you know, we're all going to age out at some point, but I'm not going to age out fast. I'm going to use the experience and work with our friends that are on this call and everywhere else to find ways to carry this legacy forward that so many people have invested so much time in going. So Abhi, big thank you for organizing this great program. You know, Tyler, Kartik, Yoli, Beth, really appreciate you hopping on, and of course all the members. This is just a great way for all of this to compound into a big future. And Abhi and Yoli, Beth, and Tyler, Kartik, you're making it happen. I'm so proud of to be a part of what you guys are doing and be included. So thank you, Abhi. Hopefully I've covered what you want me to cover.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bill. You know, as we come towards the 1.5 hour mark, the time that we have set out for today's session is coming to an end. And I want to end with a note to all the members, as well as all the so-called well-wishers of fire safety, to professionals from around the world who form a common collective of the fire stopping industry, who form a common collective of the compartmentation or passive fire protection industry, that we're really glad that you are here. And we are really excited that we have been able to provide this as a platform. And if you know anyone else who would want to be joining us, please give them a shout out. We are excited that the members have been increasing. And I want to take this opportunity to not only invite you to the next and the last episode of this series towards the end of January. I would like to share that we have a very exciting week lined up next week, where on the Monday, we have a very well planned regional huddle where we are bringing together all members, where I will come and share an update of all that we have done, as well as share all that is being planned in the future. I plan to make this meeting a little more public for even non-members to come and have a listen to the value that the associations, people like you who are volunteering their time for the common collective, have, by what looks like a small piece of effort, have added on to an ocean of change that has come to be today. And I'm very excited about Intersect, which is a show that's happening from the Tuesday to the Thursday. We have an excellent lineup of talks that I am delivering, part of several panel discussions along with UL and several other related entities, where we talk about fire stopping, we talk about engineering judgments, and so many interesting, insightful information that's happening in the coming weeks. Members of the Society of Fire Protection Engineer, SFPE, all over the world are going to have a listen in to the golden language of passive fire protection on the 24th of January. We have an exciting talk lined up where more than 6,000 professionals across 78 countries who have a free access to the talk, and there are other people who are also registering in. So very excited that our common collective has been expanding, and really thankful to all the members who have taken out this time, a precious time, their work hours, to have a listen in for inspection, which is the backbone of how we deliver work. It is also the backbone of responsibility and liability, which translate into money in contracts, which translate into legal or illegal work being defined and differentiated just from the sanctity of ISO 17 or 20, which Karthik took a considerable amount of time very early morning to explain to the whole audience about the genesis and about the impact that inspections bring about. So really, really grateful to the whole panel who have come together, and to all the listeners. Some of the questions which may not have been answered, I'm going to reply back in emails. Thank you so much for the questions. And if you have any other thoughts, please, you are most welcome to send them through, and we will look forward to answering them. Thank you very, very much for today's time. I wish you a great day, a great evening, or maybe a good night if you're listening in from the other side of the world. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Abhi.
Thank you. Bill, you are the expert. I don't know how to close this.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks.